Hello everyone, this is Rhoda and welcome to Rhoda Cards. Today I'm going to show you how to make this interactive ladybug card. You open the wings, the little arrow here, you open the wings and you can see the greeting inside the ladybug. Now this card it's special because not only can you see the greeting when you open the ladybug's wings, but the greeting is actually on the inside of the card. So this is what we're going to be creating today. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me show you some of the supplies that we will be using. I am using the dies or the thin cuts for the ladybug with Close to My Heart, as well as the ladybug stamps from Close to My Heart. And there's the stamps. Hello Ladybug. Now also I'm going to be using some of these nested circle dies that I have I got at Tuesday morning. And I'm also going to be using a few punches. This is what the ladybug dies look like. And these are the circle dies that I'm going to show you how to use. I'm also going to be using a 1-inch circle punch. This little circle punch, which is 3/8 circle punch. And I'm going to be using this punch for my flowers on the front of my card. Now these dies, you can get the dies that actually make the ladybug, and I've used the dies to make them here. I've punched the dies out and I've put the little spots on, which I'll show you in a minute. But if you can't get the dies or you don't want to get the dies, I have figured out a way how to make the ladybug without the actual dies. This ladybug here was made with just regular circle dies in the punches. And it is very, very close to the other ladybug that you can make with the dies. The dies gives you the little stitched area around each of the spots. And I wasn't able to recreate that one with my dies, but I'm going to show you how to do that as well, if you can't find the dies or if you don't want to get the dies. So the first thing that I did was I cut my card base, and my card base is 8.5 by 5.5. You can score it at 4 1/4. You can score it here at 4 1/4 and then fold it. Sometimes I will score and sometimes I just fold. Just like that. You need a piece of patterned paper, and it's 5 1/4 by 4. And the pattern paper I just put right on the card base. I just stick it right down on the card base. You can use any colored pattern paper you want. You can use different colors. I just went with yellow. I thought it worked with the ladybug really well, so I just used yellow. Now you will also need black cardstock and red cardstock for the ladybug. And what I did was I cut the ladybug body of the die out of the black cardstock. But what else I did, again, to see if I could do this without dies, I took a couple of these dies, I put them together. That one's the big one. I just put them together, stuck a little tape on it, ran it through my Cuttlebug, and I came up with this circle here, just with cutting these two out like that. When you use the dies, you get this when you cut it out. So to make the head of the ladybug, I used the smaller circle die, which is this one. It is approximately, it is 1.5 inches. This particular one is. And I ran this through and I got this circle. Now to use it for the ladybug head, I just cut it in half. So you can get two ladybugs out of this one circle. So you cut it in half and then you glue the head to the circle like that. And I will go ahead and put some glue on there and glue it down. I use a little bit of liquid glue here. And I just glued this down. Right there. And that looks very, very close to the die, the ladybug die. Now the wings, the ladybug wings, are a die, which are these two. That's what they look like. So I ran them through the Cuttlebug, and that's where I got these. Now if you notice there's a little hole at the top of each of these, you're going to put those together and then put a brad through it to attach it to that. Put a brad through there, those little holes. Now again, those holes come with the die, but if you don't have the die or you don't want to get the die, you can use a paper piercer and just put a little hole right in the middle here to attach your brad to. Now, without the actual ladybug dies, I use this big circle die here to cut out the wings. And this one is 3 1/4. So I cut that out with this die for the wings. And then you cut this in half. You cut this in half for the 2 wings. And that's what you get there. So I just take this and I put it in my paper trimmer and just put it in. You want to hit it right in the center. When you're cutting something like this, I like to cut right in the middle, put the blade right in the middle, and then cut up and then cut down. And there are the ladybug's wings. Just like that. Now with our paper piercer, we're just going to put a small hole in the top of each of these for the brad that's going to hold them together. So we just put a little hole here and a little hole here. And I have a brad here. If I could pick it up. And these are the little tiny brads. In this, you would take the 2 wings. You're going to put the brad through one and the other. And then you're going to put it through the top of the ladybug. And that's how you get the wings attached to the body. So I've already done that with this one. Now this little piece here I added because I wanted, when you give this card to someone, I want them to be able to know to open the card to see what's underneath it. So I used the 1-inch circle punch, punched it out in black, and then again I cut it in half. So that way you could attach it underneath the wing. put a little glue on that. We'll put it underneath the wing. And then with a white gel pen, I put a little arrow on it so that you know that it opens. Now you want to let that dry before you start touching it, because I smeared it previously on another card. So once you get the body of the ladybug done, whether you do it with the ladybug die or if you just do it with the circle dies, whichever way. Now the ladybug dies have these little circles on them with the little stitched area. And the stamp set actually comes with some black dots, so you can stamp black dots in those areas. These little dots here, you can stamp those in those areas, and that's fine. However, I used that little tiny punch and just punched out a bunch of these little black circles, and I glued those down inside those little areas. I use my tweezers to hold them, and a little bit of liquid glue, and I just stuck them inside the stitched areas. And you can use the stamp. I like stamping. I just decided to do that with the punch this time. So I just did that. So you add all your little circle dots. I used the same punch and punched out the same number of dots to do it this way without the ladybug dies, but it just doesn't have the little stitched areas around the dots there. That's the only difference. So now that we've got this little ladybug done, I'm going to put this little Brad in here because we've added all of the black dots to his wings, or her wings. You just put it through one wing, put it through the other wing, put it through the body. So you got it all together here. And then I turn it over and I separate the brad pieces on the back. And push that down. And then you've got your wings on your ladybug. Now, how do you get the saying on the inside? So what I did was I took my ladybug, I laid it down on the front of my card where I wanted it. I wanted to make sure I had enough room to put the little antenna up here at the top and the flowers around the side. So I put it like about here. I opened his wings up all the way. And then I took a pencil and I traced the area where I wanted to have the cutout on the card. So that will fit right down over top of that. So then I'll take that and the circle die, and I'm going to run that through the Cuttlebug. Now, when you run this through, make sure that you open your card, because if not, it's going to cut into the back of your base. You don't want that. You only want to cut through the top. Now, with two pieces of paper here, with the paper on the card base, you're going to have to run it through a couple of times. I ran mine through 4 times to get it to cut completely, just because it's thicker. If you have a thinner piece of paper up here, it won't take as much to cut as if you had a thicker piece of paper. So you take that, you run that through, which I've done previously, and you get this. There's a hole in the front here. You open it and you can see the inside of the card base here. So that's what I've done. So now we take our card base and we're going to put our butterfly right on the top of it here. So I took this, I added some glue. Added some glue here. And then you just take it. I'm going to open the wings so I can see where the spot is that I cut out on the base. Open the wings. And then I'm going to line it up with that space there. Again, I want to make sure that the ladybug's head is going in the right direction so I can add his antenna and there's room for it on the card, because I'm going to stamp that right on the card base. So there we have that. I'm going to punch out another piece of black here. I'm going to cut this in half. Just going to use a pair of scissors to cut this in half. And then glue this on the inside here of his wing. Glue that right there. Let that dry for a second. And there we go. So now when you close the base, you open the ladybug's wings. That's your card base inside here. So you can stamp your sentiment in there. All right, so let me get my ink here, and we're gonna stamp this right in here. There we go. Now while I've got the ink out, I'm gonna go ahead and stamp the antenna for the ladybug. We'll shut the wings here and stamp the antenna right there. So that's basically how that works. Use my little gel pen to put a little arrow right there. And then I've got the flowers and the leaves to put on the card. So we'll use a little bit of glue and my tweezers. So I'm going to make these little flowers. And I just turned it so that the little petals kind of go in between these other petals. And then I just mixed up the colors. Just mixed up the colors a little bit to piece these together. So just put these together. And then we can put them on our card. And I just kind of got different colors. You can use whatever colors you want. I didn't want to go with pink just because the ladybug was red. I didn't think that the pink and red, but you can use whatever color you want. I liked the blue and yellow, so I just went with that. And then you just kind of decide where you want to put the flowers on the card. I just put them on 3 of the corners. And then added the leaves. I just decided where I wanted to put the leaves before I glued everything down. And then you take the glue and you glue it down. And you can use whatever glue you want. I used a lot of liquid glue on this just because there were small pieces on the flower and the ladybug, and it was just so much easier to use liquid glue than to try to use tape runner. I used tape runner on the paper to put it down on the cardstock for the base, but I just used liquid glue on the rest of this because I had it out. Now when you go to open the ladybug, you will need to lift the wing just a little bit to get it over the flower when you open it. And there's our ladybug with our little leaves there. Now what I also did was I added a couple of little butterflies and a little bee. You can add them or not, it doesn't matter. I just thought it was kind of cute to add a couple of different bees here. So I just kind of put a few little bees on here by the flowers. And this little butterfly that came with the stamp set I thought was really cute, so I just added a little butterfly in here too. So that is the card. Pretty cute. Again, you can open the ladybug wings to reveal the message inside. And then when you close it, you see the message on the inside of the card. Thank you so much for joining me today for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you give this a try with or without the special ladybug dies. And I hope it helped you to be able to see how to make it without the dies. So have a wonderful day, and I hope to see you again at the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.